I'm Richard Mackay.
And I'm Daily Bolt, and you are listening to the Wrong Bias Podcast.
And on show 28, we catch up with Jason Parkinson. During our chat, we touch on the new St Greavesy of Bowls, future changes within the World Bowls Tour, the media, everything Lancashire, and much more. Sadly, Richie's Roundup is back on furlough. We also have our regular competition sponsored by Alex Marshall Sports Ltd, who once again we thank for their support even in these tough times for bowls retailers. Right, here we are again, mate. Show number 28. Nice to see some live bowls on the telly, and we must pass our congratulations on to one of our earlier guests, Mark Dawes, on his second singles win, mate.
Absolutely. Before we go to Mark Dawes, I need to stop you in your tracks there. You're getting a bit slacker here. What's our anniversary? 28? Because you tend to be forgetting about these things now. I've put you right on the spot there. No, you did.
You put us right on the spot.
Did it be pulling your face at us?
I'll have to. No, I'll have to come up in the closing bit, mate. I'll come closing. I'll do a bit of research.
Get that team of researchers on the job.
Yeah,
great. I mean, Mark was fantastic. I was reading today, which I hadn't realised. I'd never put two and two together, but he's the first person since Alcock, I believe, to do the double-double.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah, I don't know if that was in your report.
That was in the Handy Balls column, that, mate.
Was it I thought I recognised.
Which I read somewhere else.
I recognised the writing style, but yeah,
it might have been on the WBT.
That was good to read, and it's a nice little accolade for him. But fair to the lad, there wouldn't be many who touched him in the final. Because as I made a comment to somebody put a comment on saying, "How do you beat Mark Dawes?" And I gave him three options, and I says you can either try and compete with him on the draw, or you can try and run him off the green, which I think Greg did, and didn't come to fruition. Or I says you can just get a baseball bat and smash his hands in, something like that. But when he gets his first two balls going like he does, the lad's just got so much in his armoury that you start to chase him, and even when you're hitting heads, he goes and sticks one right on the top again. Or you start to build a head up yourself, and he's got that runner in his pocket that he just pulls out and turns. And I think, if I remember rightly, one of the ends, he was in not the best position. Was he 3 or 4 down? At one point, that would have brought Greg right back into the game, and he played a little backhand runner. Greg had actually just turned the head a little bit where his last ball, flicked a ball out, which gave him a 2-ball target rather than a single ball.
Yeah.
And he hit his, he came out absolute maximum result and got a 1, I think, the jack rolled through to the back. But he hit the perfect target that he was looking for. So he's just got every shot in the boot, Mark, and such a top lad. He's a real gentleman, and it was nice to see him. And one of our other guests on here, Mr. Chesney, backing him up in the pairs again as well, which is another great achievement for the two of them.
All these guests on our show, mate, they seem to win something when they've come on here.
Aye, well, I cannot. We've got Jason on for this show, and I kind of, we can do a lot of things, but we kind of perform miracles, so we'll just have to wait and see on that one.
He's lucky for that. He's lucky for that. Anyway, the highlight for me from the championships was probably Catherine Redden's performance. I mean, 7.5 months pregnant.
Yeah, I'll back that one up. I mean, that would be, apart from obviously Dorsey that we've talked about, just, it's not even in a bowling sort of thing. And those of you who either follow the Bold Bowls page or my Wrong Bias page, I put a bit of an article on combined effort, obviously.
Yes, it was.
Richie, and basically just highlighted the fact that it was, quite a mammoth thing for the game. And I did see a later comment, somebody coming on there saying, why are you making such a big deal about it when you've already turned around and said that women should be just as good as men? Because, it's not a physical sport. You don't have to be strong or anything like that. It's not the fact that we're making a big thing about the fact that Catherine beat Alex in a game of bowls. That Catherine's capable of beating anybody on our day. It's just the repercussions that could have for the women's game. And, I have that article on there mainly for the fact of that should be just driven and promoted as much as the sport can do it, because any women looking in, we need to give that sort of understanding that this sport can be played by anybody and the diversity of the sport, and you can come in and potentially qualify to get onto TV. And that is a great thing to put out there. So that was the basis. I mean, if anybody, not going to go into it too much, it was fantastic. It went ridiculous. I think it hit around about 26,500 people, 60 odd shares. So it's gone far and wide, which was lovely to see. But yeah, that was definitely why it was my highlight, because for the good of the sport, I think it was a great thing.
Yeah, and we have, anybody who's not on Facebook, we've actually put it on the website so you can view it on www.wrongbias.com, and we've added some of the responses to the actual article. Just another thing on the same kind of subject, mate, it just shows media-wise how far the sport has fell. And we know for a fact that Catherine's achievement was passed on to several media outlets, and they just came back, they weren't interested.
Yeah, we were sort of given a little bit of information on that, weren't we, about the fact that there was a major article on, was it something like influential women in sport or something like that? Now, if there's anything that can be any more influential than a 7.5 to 8 month pregnant woman beating a 6-time world champion in any sport, I don't care whether it's bowls, tiddlywinks, chess, whatever it is, it's an achievement in itself. And to not be even given the time of day is shocking.
Yeah. I mean,
absolutely shocking.
I mean, there's two things that show how far the sport is at media-wise. Go back to my BBC website. We didn't even make the all sports section on the website. You've got to dig into the A to Z of sports. And for people who are saying, well, get Sky involved, there's not even anything on a Sky website for bowls. So anybody who's saying, get Barry Earn involved, Sky, no balls.
Yeah. One quick thing that did come off the back of that article we did put on was there was a bit of discussion around Barry Earn, and he came into the sport, obviously, and I'm extremely dubious, and again, personal opinion, I will get shot down, but I am extremely dubious as to the reason he gave as to why bowls would not succeed, and that was the time it takes a bowl to get from target A to target B. There is too much to gap fill. Now, I'm sorry, but I've seen snooker players walk around a snooker table for 4.5 to 5 minutes to look at a shot. Hang on, 15 seconds to watch a ball come to a green, or 5.5 minutes doesn't seem to affect his snooker. So there's definite questions to be asked there, because I'd love to be sitting in a room and just ask that question, because it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. And now we catch up with Jason Parkinson.
On today's show, we have Jason Parkinson, who many might have heard at the recent World Championships with his sultry tones, doing a bit of commentary. Known Jason for a lot of years. But thanks very much for coming onto the show, Jason.
You're very welcome.
Compliment you on your work at Potters on the commentary team. I thought you were absolutely fantastic and complimented well with Nicky. As we said in the previous podcast, it was a shame, obviously, he wasn't competing, but I think they found a little bit of a rough diamond there coming into the commentary box, because you two worked really well together.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for that. Yeah, you're exactly right. I think with Nick's obviously unfortunate injury, that kind of really helped me in a massive way, because I went down to Potters not really knowing what exactly was going to be allowed in regards to obviously the commentary box that we have at Potters. It's one of the main offices at the top. It's only a small kind of area, which I normally share with obviously Janice Gower, which was kind of like separated down like 50-50 with a big screen in between us. And when I got there, I realised that obviously Nicky was going to help us for the best part of 10 days. It was great because he's got the experience, but I think the thing that people seem to like as well is not only do they get to speak to the world number one, they get Nick's humour as well. And Nick's humour's it's very similar to mine in a way. It's very kind of off the cuff and, a little bit slightly along the line, if you wish. And it was just fantastic. It really was. And it was great. It's great to see that people received it very well as well.
I think the one thing that stuck out, and this might sound daft, but it was the commentary when you didn't commentate. You didn't necessarily constantly try and gap fill. There is a time and place to say something during a match. And I think he's got that really well with the balance between saying things that people want to hear, but apart from that, letting people just watch the game.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I want to do it. When people do commentary, everyone has their own style, if you wish. So obviously, I've played the game at international level level. I represented England in Hong Kong and China, managed to bring back a couple of gold medals, and especially in Jersey. So I've got the knowledge, if you wish. I think sometimes what people don't understand is where we commentate from. We can't actually see the portable rink. So we're actually commentating off a bedroom TV, if you wish. If that's what you want. It's like a 23, 24-inch television, and we see it a split second before you actually see it live for obvious reasons. So we have to make as better judgment as possible as to what we think a certain player is going to play. So the people that watch the top 16, and the top 20 and so and so regular kind of get to know how a person plays. Certain people are easier than others, like Mark Royal is quite easy because he's normally quite predictable in his game. And then you have people like, say, Jason Greenslade. Depends on which kind of Jason turns up on the day, if you wish. And that's not being nasty. That's just Jason. And that's what makes it interesting, I think. You think, he's miles to draw. He's 2 yards to draw. He must draw the backhand. And next minute, he's flying down the forehand, which is interesting. But you think, he's got to draw the backhand. And he can make you look a bit of an idiot. You think, oh, well, fair enough. And there's only so many times you can start saying things and getting it wrong. But it is, as you know, just an opinion. It's what you think that higher percentage shot is. And you give your opinion. If it's right, fantastic. If it's wrong, fair enough. If anybody's actually real with themselves when they're watching any game balls, say at Leamington, they're sat behind the green thinking he's got to play the backhand here, and also he'll play the forehand. That's just balls, isn't it? It makes it interesting.
It is, yeah. And I think it's. I know we had a bit of a laugh because I know Richie mentioned on the last podcast, and he says they did the job great because they called a few shots and got them wrong like they always do, which was obviously tongue in cheek and a bit of a laugh. But that is the good thing. In Jason Greenslade, you probably couldn't have picked a better person with regards to such an unorthodox player, because you're right, there is times you say he has got to play that and he will do completely the opposite. The bizarre thing is the opposite of what you think he's going to do tends to pay off. So there's times he could actually get walloped in the first set, then sneak through in a second set and then win the game on a tiebreaker. Just that's the style of player that he is. Completely right. And it's not an easy job, and I think in some respects it makes it more interesting for the viewers when you potentially don't get it right, because it creates discussion.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, we have tried this year, obviously with the WBT being under a different full board, if you wish. We have tried a few different things this year. So obviously with Nicky on board as well, at the end of the pairs, we managed to dash down and interview the pairs. That's something you wouldn't normally kind of get at that stage. The BBC are kind of just arriving with there. And I think that's the other thing that needs to be mentioned as well, is when me and Nicky were doing like the first 10 days. So, and again, it was great to see some of the comments. So the first 10 days is the streaming. First of all, you have a bit more leeway when you're doing streaming. You can say a few more things. You can interact with some of the questions that are coming in slightly more, where the BBC have got so many more guidelines, obviously for obvious reasons. But yeah, so Nicky and I were trying to somehow do other things and get other things involved. But what people need to remember is for streaming, there's me, Nicky, there's the two producers, Janice and James, which are sat the other side of the wall. And they have, about 6 robotic cameras. And it's basically a 4-man show. And I think what you get for 4 men, without sounding bragging, but it's quite high quality, really. Yes, there's room for improvement. There always is room for improvement. Like we tried the replays this year and the split screens this year, and that's gone down really, really well. And it is so you're doing quite a good job and trying new things. And sometimes you think, you look to when there's not a lot happening, I kind of glance to the other computer and look at some of the comments. People are like, where's the rings? Where's the rings? Where's the rings? People just don't understand that comes with the BBC package, which have about another 40 cameras and 100 staff, and it's a lot easier when you have a lot more staff. So it's how we try and progress that. We've got a session coming up in the next couple of weeks where Nicky and I are interviewing all the winners from Potters, and I've been asking some of the people that tune in if they've got any questions as normal that they want to ask just the winners. That's something we've not done before. So it's showing that we are trying very, very slowly just to improve things. And as usual, like you get with any social media platforms, which has been, noted quite a lot of sin, is you get what they call the trolls, and some of them are not particularly trolls, they're just disgruntled bowlers or people that are a bit bored. And it's a bit sad to see sometimes, because we are all in this sport together. We all know, yes, things can always get a bit better. There's room for improvement, but what people just need to kind of, like, I'm not employed by the WBT. I'm a freelancer. I state my contract rights, and they pay me at the end of it, and I pay my tax. So I'm not biased in any way at all. But what I will say for people is the WBT has obviously changed very, very recently. It's changed in a time where COVID has obviously arrived. People just need to understand sometimes that when people are trying to make changes in a global pandemic, it's not very easy. People make mistakes, people get things right. And people learn from both of those. And that we just need to be mindful of that. I felt sorry early on because there was a lot of negative press about who was being invited. Now, whether it's people think that's right or wrong, let's just have a look at what's happened. We've got a lot of younger players on the TV, and they're not just young players. They're very good young players, and they've done a good job. I think it's fair to say the first round games have probably been more of a higher standard than ever before. So that, again, is a plus. So we should be looking at the pluses. It's very easy to find a negative. You can find a negative every day of the week. Let's look at the pluses and let's work on that. And yes, people will always be unhappy at some point. Fair play, no worries about that. But people need to be given a chance to make changes, and a chance isn't 2 or 3 months. You can't make worldwide changes in 2 or 3 months, I'm afraid.
I completely agree with you there, Jason. And I tried to get them to maybe put that little fat, ugly voodoo doll that they've probably got down in the offices at the WBT away for a little bit of time, because I did say on the last podcast, we need to give 6 to 12 months on this new regime, new setup, whatever it is, to see what they do. And you will know, because I know you've listened to the podcast, prior to the championships, I was extremely vocal with a couple of the points that you've made there. The only challenge I would make, and I completely agree, we do not want to see negativity. And I know I spoke to yourself and said, look, we want to promote the WBT. This is great for our sport, being on TV, etc., etc. One change that has to happen with the WBT, which can happen tomorrow and not in 6 months' time, not in 12, they have got to be more transparent with everybody who was involved with the game of bowls. And I think that was the thing that fell down. And this is why it increased the negativity towards the tournament, because ultimately, I don't think anybody would have any issues with the way the tournament went. I know myself and Richie talked about it. It was great. And I've always said, we need to see new people on that blue carpet. We need to see younger players, different audience, different people looking at it. And I've got no doubt that there was possibly, and I don't know what the figures are, but I'll be amazed if there wasn't potentially an increase in viewers. And I know COVID will play a big part in that. But I also think seeing different people will have made a difference. The issue stood that it was so clouded as to what happened to the major organisation that has run parallel with the WBT for so long. And I think that was the thing that really kicked it off. We can all say it's, ignore it and it was due to COVID. But when you've had so many of those players supporting the WBT for so long, you'll know yourself. It was a massive kick in the teeth to so many who have grafted the backsides off to get that opportunity. So it was such a shame for all of those guys who got there and played, because I think they did a great job. They put a great spectacle on. Wasn't many bad games at all. But it was just that little bit of niggle feeling between the PBA organisation who really felt as if they'd been let down. So we want to take the negativity out, but I just think being transparent, letting people know what is happening, what's going on, why the decisions have been made, and not potentially cleansing some of the questions so that they don't have to answer them, which is a major issue with causing negativity. Because when that happens, you know yourself, go to a shop, you buy something, you don't like it, you try to get hold of the shop, they don't answer your questions, and you say, well, hang on a second, I bought this, you won't answer me questions, why? What are you going to do? You're going to go out there and you're going to tell 50 people, do not go to that shop because it's absolutely horrendous and the service is rubbish. So that's where I just think it needs to improve, and hopefully going forward that'll be the...
And in part 2 we now dot the I's and cross the T's regarding the World Bowls Tour.
Are you aware of any changes that's happening within the WBT?
So, with regards to changes, there's stuff happening behind the scenes. So, there's obviously David Corkill's doing an awful lot of work in regards to getting more sponsorship and more events on board. So, obviously, the good thing with having David on board is he sees it from both sides. So, obviously, David's obviously been a player for so many years, or to make him sound old, but he's been around for
years.
Well, yeah, he's been around for so long in the game, and also within TV. So he's seen it's from the side of the players' side of it from the television. He's seen it obviously from the side of it from commentator, and obviously working alongside the directors and that, the BBC and BBC Sport and that. And he is actively now, he's got a role which will keep him very busy for the next few months, gaining sponsorship. Now, sponsorship is going to be very, very hard, as you appreciate, to come by, and you need to be kind of like mindful now. What is realistic for sponsorship? So where before you were probably looking for maybe 70, 80,000, where now you'd probably have to think, well, okay, we'll settle for less money and have more competitions for slightly less money. People are saying, like, do you need the portable rink for every event? Well, the portable rink is, if you wish, everything's like a brand, isn't it? So when you sell a brand, you need to have certain packages. So you just can't go to a sponsor and say, we're Bowls, we want TV, this is the package. You've got to have package A, package B, package C, depending on what you want to put in and what you want to get out. Because remember, Just, which has been a great sponsor, put a lot of money in. It's not just what the winner gets, it's the whole total package. And you're talking, 120,000-ish, roughly. In this day and age, that is a lot of money to put up. And of course, you don't just put it up thinking, we'll give you that money. You must want something back, and quite rightly so. Even this year, it shows you they've made it happen this year. The sponsors have wanted it to happen, where they've got nobody there. It's a very, very difficult thing to do, where if you kind of start thinking, well, what other packages can we offer? I don't know. It's not my business. But if you look at places like Stanley, so I have access to a lot of the player profiles, and 90%, there's a question on there, as you'll probably know, David, what is your favourite green? 90% of people, not just from England, from anywhere in the UK especially, will say Stanley, because Stanley is a very true surface, as you know. It's a quick surface. It's a bit kind of out of the way of everywhere, if you wish. But if you think about Stanley now, it's got a purpose-built stand already in. So, that's one good thing. There's a stand already there. So that'll save a cost and gain a tick, if you wish.
And it's a blue carpet.
And it's a blue carpet. And you can put your advertising boards down straight away. So you're saving money and gaining your ticks. So that must be worth a look for, like, the International Open, for example. Blackpool's shut now. There's talks with the Welsh. There's a Jewish centre. For me personally, obviously, you've got to be careful of what's a good venue where you're going to get the crowds in. Like Blackpool was a decent venue. Blackpool always surprised me because there's a lot of bowlers in Blackpool. Most of them are crown green bowlers, but there was just never anybody in. I think in the early days, I and myself included, you think, might get a bit of atmosphere here, because the crown green players, they like a little bit of a pint, like a bit of a bet, love to watch a good game of bowls, and they love to get involved. So if they've got a £5 bet on someone, they'll be behind them. It doesn't materialise. And, I know David's trying to look at more of the Australian UBC because it's great, but it's smaller crowd, more atmosphere, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it just doesn't happen overnight. It's a very, very fine line, because with a smaller crowd comes less money, less take for the admission fees. But do you want the atmosphere, and are the players prepared for that atmosphere, against what you're going to take money-wise?
Also, on that point, Jason, obviously from the Blackpool's point of view, they must have lost a fortune, because, we can have that balance between having a big crowd paying a lot of money and maybe not having the atmosphere or whatever you want to do, or you can have that smaller crowd. But as far as Blackpool's concerned, I'm sure they would have snapped your hand off if you could turn around and say, we will have 50 people in the crowd every day for the duration of this tournament, which didn't necessarily happen at Blackpool. So there's a counterbalance there between cost and effectiveness of what you're trying to put on. And just one thought, looking at shortening the actual competition times, because surely in this day and age now, with streaming and things like that, you could start a game at 8 o'clock in the morning and continue till 9 o'clock at night and probably get, I know it's hard work, and I know, we'll just have to replace you, Jason. We'll have to get somebody who can do the job properly. But I joke. But I'm just thinking, you could literally cram a tournament over 3 or 4 days rather than stretching it out over 10 and really hit those rounds early and get a load of them played over the first couple of days. And then it starts to, you have those quarterfinals on one day, the semi-finals the next, and the final is the big event.
Yeah, I think so. Like, if you look at the Scottish, that's at Perth. Like the Sunday especially, we start, I'll probably get to the commentary box about 8:30, and sometimes you're still there at midnight. You have about 8 games completely solid. But what they've mentioned is, they're trying to get a few of the players on board. So we have, kind of like a group, if you wish, of commentators. Because, you look at Potters, it lasts, 18 days or something. Everybody has their favourite. So people say, oh, I like that commentator, whatever. Whichever commentator you like or their style you like, you don't want to listen to them for nearly 3 weeks. You want, a variety. And that was quite nice when we had Ellen came in, just that little break, because Ellen's got a massive knowledge around the ladies game. So yeah, we're looking at trying to get a group of people, if you wish. So even though obviously Nicky's going to be playing from the next event, Nicky, would love to still say, well, okay, you got 3 days off. Do you fancy doing a little bit of commentary? Darren Burnett, he's another one who, when someone says to you, oh, Darren's with you for this game, it's fantastic because Darren is really lovely to work with. Great player, great person, great personality, always goes down really, really well. It's that fine line of some people think, oh, you're doing commentary, so you just got to speak for the whole duration. You just can't do it because like anybody in bowls will have a few really rubbish ends and nobody, I don't care who you are, wants to hear someone say, and another short bowl and another 4-yard short bowl, and then that year I had to commentate on one of the overseas players who had never played indoor bowls, I don't think, ever before. And I think for 3M sent wrong biases. Well, you either shut up and don't say anything for 20 minutes or you look really silly saying, and he's in the flower bed again. It's a lot harder than people think. You've got these little headphones on, you're looking at TV, so you have probably 4 voices in your head at the same time, which makes it even worse for me because you can normally split the voices, but I'm 100% left in my deaf ear. I'm 100% deaf in my left ear.
You're 100% left in your deaf ear.
That's a blooper, mate. Blooper.
Put that bottle of wine down.
Yeah, I'm 100% deaf in my left ear. So I have to hear all 4 voices in my right ear, which sometimes you think you're going absolutely crazy. So as you're bringing the show on air, for example, you're looking at the screen, you're listening to the programme. I've also got the director talking to me. I'm trying to bring the show on air. So I'm hearing my own voice. It is a lot harder than what people think. But like anything in bowls, we just try our best. We're not professional. I'm not a professional sports commentator at all. I'm just a bowler that just tries to put my own a bit of experience and just to try and make it fun, light-hearted, not to slag anybody off. You say there's a bit of a bad bowl, but, you just commentate on what you see. It's like catchphrase, isn't it? You talk about what you see. You stay quiet when you need to stay quiet, and you interject when you need to interject in a decent end.
Great stuff. I'm going to pass you over to Richard because I'm sure he's probably got a couple of questions.
Right, mate. My favourite, Jason. Is there any plans to overhaul the rankings?
I'm not privileged to that information at the moment. I think personally, obviously, I'm a player and I try and compete in these things myself. I think I've qualified probably 5 times now, but I think something needs to be done personally from a player's side of things, because if you look back, let's just about 20 years, there's been very little change in 20 years. And if you compare that to most sports, that's unheard of in a way.
Yeah.
But is it a case of, for our sport, those same people have been at the top of the game for 20 years? It's that balance, isn't it? Different sports doesn't necessarily mean they happen the same. But as a player, I'd like to see, something change. It's very hard until we get the more competitions and more tournaments in we can qualify for. That will always be difficult. Yeah.
I mean, Rich, I was just going to say, based on what you said at the start, seeing new people there has been a great thing. That ain't going to happen if it doesn't change.
No, yeah, exactly. It's like anything, is it? Whether it's sport or business or your personal life, if you enter into something or have an interest in something, the first thing you say to yourself is, what's in this for me? And if there's nothing in it it for you, or if you think it's a closed shop for you, then you don't take part in it, do you? But I must say, I do believe things will be in the pipeline. There's been there's been a change in team spirit this year. Everyone's kind of like working for the same goal, if you wish. Just give it the time, yeah.
My other one was, Davey knows, I write an article in the Sun and Echo every Saturday to get the sport out there. Now, one thing that was frustrating was that there was no update on the WBT website until 2 days before the event. And I just thought, to try to get other people to promote the event and then not to promote the event on the website by yourselves or by whoever was in charge of it, I thought it just didn't look right. I don't know whether you didn't have access to the website or... Yeah,
there was obviously due to change of ownership, if you wish, or, who's in charge of it. Yeah, there has been certain access problems to certain sites, if you wish. And you are right. I think in bowls in general, even if you just take it back to county level, communication in bowls is quite poor, to be honest.
You are listening to the Wrong Bias Bowls podcast.
We all do our own little thing within the county leagues. Like we have a Super League now in Lancashire. And even that this year, it's how we kind of tap into the local media. We just do our own little thing, put on our own website, and it doesn't get any better than that. And I think, if I'm being honest, we can all be better at communication. Definitely, bowls communication and what we're doing and what we're achieving is poor. And I hate saying that. I'm a county competition secretary myself, and you do your own thing. You've all got full-time jobs. And I could be better at it, and I don't mind admitting that I could be better at communicating media-wise. It's tapping back into the media, because media, they're not interested in bowls. No. They're just not. You've got to force them to say, can you mention about the Super League? Well, what's the Super League? Well, it's a bowls competition. Oh, well, it's not really interesting for us. And that's just how it is. You just got to stick at the stuff. But, and again, I've said this to David before, people are very, very quick to criticise anything in bowls, not just WBT, Bowls England, your own counties, bowls in general. Oh, we should do this, we should do that. Fantastic. Do the work and let me know how you get on. I'm a bit busy. I'm far too busy for that. Yeah. Well, somebody has to do it.
And I know I've said it before about the media side. It is, like you said, we don't get the stuff in the paper, but that's down to the individual bowlers to approach an editor and say, well, listen, this is happening in our area. Can you put it in the paper, or have you got a little space for a regular article? Can it always come down to the governing bodies? The bowlers have got to take some responsibility on themselves.
Yeah, people want everything done for them. Yeah. If you think about the EIBA and Bowls England, I dread to think the amount of hundreds of thousands of pounds they've lost over the last kind of like almost 12 months. They're still supporting bowls. It was great to see the EIBA and what they did in the last podcast for the Open Singles Circuit. And I think David mentioned it. 90% of the people listening to that probably had no idea that was being done. And I actually thought to myself, well, bloody fair play to you. Do you know what I mean? Because it's easier, like I've said, to find the negative. Bowls England, they've got all these brand new roles. In a time of struggle, they've got these new roles. They've got all these workshops. I'm part of the Commonwealth Games one. I've spoken to the CEO regarding how we can get a Premier League started in the UK. And I'm going to try and start that using the Northern Counties. It can happen. It's a lot of work. Like my Super League I have in Bowls Lancashire. It's just an outdoor bowls league where next year we've got nearly £2,500 worth of sponsorship for a bowls league, which is an amateur level, because I've made sure it's an amateur level where every level of bowler mixes, whether it's A team, Middleton Cup, whether it's your B team, whether it's your lady player. Like this year that we've just finished, we've had 2 deaf players, completely deaf, came first and second in a Super League. All they said at the end of it, even though they came first and second, thank you very much. We would have never, ever had opportunity to play with or against people of that ability had you not have started this Super League. And to me, that's a great thing, because yes, we've had competitive bowls where most counties didn't run anything. We've had, we had decent weather, thank goodness. We've played for a bit of money, and let's face it, we all like playing for a bit of money. But for me, I've developed my own county. I've developed a county of 3 clubs and about 200 members, where I've developed probably 80% of that, where even we've had youngster players, like there's a guy called Lewis Rimmer, a good 18 player, always considered first, kind of front end, where he skipped his team for a long, long time and actually won it. To me, that speaks volumes, because it shows you that we're giving the youngsters a chance in a position where they've never played before, and they're actually rising to the challenge. Playing with people, deaf players, we've got blind players, we've got brand new players, and they're finishing very, very high up in the league. They would never do that in your traditional league, where everybody plays with the same people in the same formations, and it just gets boring. We need to get away from this boring, because you'll never attract younger players with a boring format. They don't want wipes. It's very, very boring. We scrapped the dress code. We had brightly coloured tops, and we scrapped all this whites and stuff, where whatever you want, you just wear your team top. And that's what they did. We had music blasting across Heaton Park, which has got 4 greens, and we played for money, and we also raised £500 for a charity at the same time. That's what Bowls is about.
Did you get much interest from passing public?
So we did. So it's been like pros and cons for me, if you wish. So it was always at Heaton Park, which we've got a fence all the way around it, but it's a see-through fence, so you can all see. So people are coming past one day and seeing people playing, and they're in either greys or whites, or just whites. It's very, very boring. And then the next day they turn up and the greens are full. It's full of brightly coloured tops. There's music playing. We had a DJ. We've had a barbecue. And they come in saying, "What's going on? What's all the music like?" We've got new members. That's what people want.
Whenever I go to clubs, it's two of the. It might sound stupid, but it's two of the things that I always drive and say: if you're going to have an open day, or you're going to have an event, a little competition within your club or something, play music and put a barbecue on. Because what do we do during the summer? If you hear music in the distance, you go, "Oh, all right, where's that coming from?" And then when you get a smell of that charcoal burning and a bit of sausage and a bit of burger, I'm like a dog on heat. I'm trying to jump over fences to try and find out where they're coming from. But I'm joking there. But obviously, it's two things that attract people to a venue. And, the two very, very simple things as well. It doesn't take massive changes. It just takes a little bit of thought as to what the general public want to see and hear.
Yeah, it's one of them things where I think it's one thing to get people through the gate. You've got to get them through the gate to start with. And we're doing that quite well, I'd say. It's then how you keep those people, because straight away, like I've just said, what's in it for me? What can you offer me? Blah, blah, blah. The Commonwealth Games facility that we have in Manchester, it's not the best. I know it's my own club. It's not the best. We've got a very small facility for what it is, really. But now we have the Crown Green as well. So obviously 2 of the greens, the far 2 right-hand side greens, are now Crown Greens. So we've got a couple of Crown Green clubs playing. It's now the headquarters for the British Crown Green in Manchester. And I believe they're trying to make it the headquarters for the coach bowls as well. So we have the absolute perfect opportunity to tap into lots of markets now, because when people come through the door, what have you got offers? Well, we have the flat green, we've got the Crown Green. You can play either, you can play both. They're totally different games. I played both. I played Crown Green since I was 5 years of age. Love it. It's completely different. But the club facilities as well, I'm hoping, they might just knock it down and start again, because it could be an awful lot better. But we've got so many small, with small membership, I don't even think we've got 100 anymore. But again, it's the everyday people doing the tasks, or the people that have got time. Yeah. Now, just because you've got time, unfortunately, doesn't mean you're the right people. And that's my task at the moment. I'm going on about some of the younger people, how we need to step up as club members and take the reins, if you wish, from some of the older members. So a lot of club committees will relate to this. Look at a committee on a club. They are of a certain age group, and which is great, because you need those people in your club, because they're the people that you're going to fill your daytime leagues, your club competitions, and that's fantastic. But if people are joining your club, younger people, new people. Development and training isn't easy. I've signed myself up for doing level 2 and level 3 bowls coaches with a look at doing some head coach stuff. And that's me stepping up. I'm only 42. I've played bowls since I was 5. Yes. I've played at international level, junior, senior. And I got to a stage where through ill health at the same time as my career kind of hit at the same time, that just destroyed my confidence in a way, because I had my career, which I was loving. That affected my bowls because I was playing once every blue moon. I've had more returns than the taxman in bowls. I've had that many breaks and then come back. I am like a taxman. But in a way, it makes you feel better because you just think, well, actually, sometimes you need to give back to the sport. It's just not all about taking. Yeah. And that's what I've done now by getting on board with my exec and trying to promote different ways of thinking. Yes, bowls needs to change. We need new, short, sharp formats, but we can't forget the traditional formats because your average players still want that 4s, 21 ends. And there is, there's means for that in the game. And especially the bigger clubs where, they're fighting for rink space. You need that in a way in Lancashire because we've got very little membership, but we can use that to our advantage because we can do whatever we want, really. And that sounds ridiculous, but we can. And that's why we're starting this Super League and hopefully this new Premier League that I've got for the northern counties. And I do believe, and hopefully I won't regret this, but if you give me 3 or 4 years' time, I will make the Northern Counties Premier League better. This is a big statement, better than any national championships you could ever want. It's less travelling, less hotel accommodation, a lot less money for more gain. And if you're younger, you want that. You don't want to travel. We're in an area in Lancashire where we're penalised all the time. We'll play Southport, we'll play Bolton in a first round of a double 4s. And then even like year before last, we were home for the next 5 games. We had Shap as our home green for 5 games. We were leaving work at 3 o'clock in the afternoon to dash hundreds of miles to Shap into a county where we're playing a team from their own county, even though we're the homesters, and then travelling home and getting home at midnight. Year before last, I think our team captain, David Lockhart, worked out, even though we got to the semi-finals, we travelled 3,200 miles and we were the home team. For what? We won the Balkan Trophy twice in 5 years or something. You get no money back. You're hundreds of pounds out of pocket. Your social life is just non-existent. I know it's not all about money, but it just gets boring. Where if we can just have a local league and this Super League, I've already got a streaming company on board, and you can have a winner takes all where the winners are going to win £4,000. I've won I think I've won 5 national titles and not won that. Where I could win that just for playing in a league. And it sounds horrible, but sometimes, and I'm not speaking just for myself, there's a lot of good players in Lancashire. We're a small county, but we pack a punch. We're not an easy county to beat at all. And we're beating the best. But it gets to a point where you just think, I'm just bored of it.
It does it takes up so much of your life. And, I think maybe not as much, but I know Cumbria sort of have those similar feelings as well, because, they've said in the past there's so much travel that it must just get absolutely tedious. And it begs the question sometimes when you hear some people that are having to travel 45 minutes down the road because the national areas have changed, and you think you've got no idea. But I know I've certainly we've had a couple of chats about it, Jason, and I've had a look at obviously what your plans are for the Northern Premier League, and it's great. And obviously I've offered any assistance that I can give, and I think if it comes off, which I'm listening to you, I'm pretty confident that it's going to, and I hope that your statement comes true, and within that 3 or 4 years, it provides something different, as you've said, and allow people to choose that or down the traditional route of chasing for the national titles, etc., etc. But it's something different, and like you say, it needs to evolve. The game needs to evolve, and it needs to provide some different things for what is probably going to be a new audience going back to bowls after COVID, because without a shadow of a doubt, there's going to be a lot of changes, and I think we all know that. And it's competition time. Thanks as always to Alex Marshall Sports for supporting the podcast. And the question for today is, we've had Jason Parkinson on the show today, who many will have heard commentating down at the World Bowls Championships. Who was his co-presenter? All we need is that co-presenter's name. Send it either by email to wrong.bias@hotmail.com, on the Facebook page, making either a comment or a message, or you can send us a message or comment on Twitter also.
And now it's time for part 4 in our chat with Jason Parkinson. Just going back to the OSC, Jason, is there any plans in the future to get a little bit closer, like a qualifying spot from the OSC, or is that just something you kind of talk about yet? Secret?
It's not case of a secret. I think what they're looking for regards to qualifiers. So in the past, we've always had this where you have to join, you become a member, and then you enter a qualifying event, wherever they are. There's been about 5 or 6 different ones. But depending on where you enter from, and this is not being nasty again, depends on the chance you have. Yeah. Again, in the north, we normally play at Carlisle. You're playing some amazing players. Carlisle is such a strong club anyway. And then you've got the added...
Stop being polite, Jason. Stop being polite. You know fine well there's easier destinations to qualify for the World Championships. Stop beating around the bush.
But then you get the Scottish contingency coming down as well, and adding to that of Carlisle, where you think, well, if I can get my weekend off to go and play somewhere else, I have a better chance.
Belfast.
What was that? You got a cough?
Belfast.
No, I qualified out of Belfast, you swine.
Exactly. I rest my case.
No, I think, but it's known where if you go to certain events, you've got to play not only better, you've got to play for longer in the day. I think I played you, Bolty, in the final one at Carlisle, like 11 at night or something. It was like gladiators.
Can't remember, Jason, who won that game. I can't remember.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. How did you do in the tournament? Did you go? No, but I think from talks that they may be looking at a different approach. So, say, for example, in England have a centralised qualifying event. So instead of having 4 or 5 different events of like 20, 60, 70 people at different events, having one centralised qualifying event per country where you all turn up. And I think that's a good way forward, because there's no advantage unless you play for the club that's picked to be the qualifiers, obviously. But I think, what they're looking at is where you would normally pay a membership of, say, £60, £70 a year, you then pay your £5, £10 entry fee. And if you get knocked out in your qualifier, you're done for the year. You think, oh, well, that's not really worth the money. I think what they're looking at maybe is maybe more pay-as-you-go, so maybe no memberships, and so there's an England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, wherever, qualifier. And let's just say, for example, there's no membership, but your entry fee for the qualifier is £30, let's just say. So you pay your £30 and you get beat first round. But then you can then go and play in the Scottish one and pay again another entry fee. So even though you're not paying a membership, even though you got beat in the first round of one, you can then still pay again and have another chance. So therefore you're getting more money as an organisation, but as a player, you're getting that extra bite of the cherry, or 3 or 4 bites at the cherry, where you can qualify. Because we've had it before where someone, I think I've did it one year because I was on holiday, where I think was it the World or one of the events I qualified from Belfast. So I was representing as an Irish qualifier, and although I love Ireland, I'm not Irish, but I was an Irish qualifier, where they need to look at that kind of, are you really representing the country? Are you representing yourself? Well, anybody's representing themselves, aren't they? I think a pay-as-you-go system is better, because it gives you more chances just because you lose. If you enter your English qualifier and I play, just for example, I don't know, Andy Thompson first round, you think, Christ, and you get beat, that's your WBT year over. Nobody wants that. You think, well, okay, I'll enter again, I'll pay again and play at another qualifying event. You know, if it's part of the PBA, to me, if I want to go to, say, Cape Town on a holiday and the PBAs are on, as long as I pay my money to enter, if I win the South African qualifier, fair play.
And I think having that tagline attached of being an Irish or a Scottish qualifier, or is it really necessary? Can you not
I don't think it is.
Just be a qualifier? Yeah. And I think that sums your point up. Regardless of where you go, if you're prepared to do that travel, spend that money, put that sacrifice in, you should just be a qualifier regardless. And to be fair, Jason, prior, you know, there's been qualifiers in the past who we know have left their country of where they play bowls to go across to another country where they generally go for a holiday and have qualified from that country on a regular basis. And
yeah, people have gone from Australia to America, haven't they? And qualified from America because they've chosen to be on holiday when their qualifiers are on. If they choose to do that, like you say, their time, their money, and their effort, if they win it, fair play to them.
Yeah.
And people say, oh, well, that's easier. Well, go and do it yourself then. If it's that easy, go and do it yourself. And that comes down the whole, it's easy to criticise, isn't it? You know?
That's not easy because at the end of the day, regardless of where you go, you've still got to beat your opponents to get to the final and qualify. So, you know, it's a bit like maybe Q school in some sports have got a qualifying school where you go and play X amount of games and you've got multiple chances to get through in a particular event. So it's, you know, if that is going to happen, then there's some bridges to build, I think we both know. But if there are more options available and more opportunities to go with that, then that bridge could be built quite quickly again, hopefully. As we said, you know, we want to see positive things for the WBT. It's our only lifeline of getting balls on the TV as it stands at the minute.
Yeah, it's the best opportunity to get balls on TV, for, you know, exactly that. And it's back. The big thing that annoys me is the big amount of negativity that's posted. I think negativity, and let's call it constructive feedback. Every business needs constructive feedback. It's how you deliver that in an open chat room for the world to see is not that way of doing the feedback. You know, they need to start doing, you know, one-to-one. I'm not saying whether people are getting answers or not. I don't know that. I hope they do. But yeah, you need to be transparent, take criticism on board and move forward. And the biggest disappointment for me, I think, for the whole thing was people wanting answers, like, I want answers, need answers. That's good. They were wanting answers, but in the time frame people were working within, with the hoops they had to jump within to make that thing happen, were massive, were absolutely massive. Like, I wasn't even playing. I was just in a box for 12 hours a day and then in my room. And the hoops people are having to jump, and, you know, Gordon Woods, that was in charge of that, worked an absolute miracle. And I mean a miracle. And I know, obviously, it was mentioned near the end, obviously, the Wayne and the Perry thing was very, very unfortunate. But that's happened in any worldwide sport. I think it was really important, first of all, to get bowls back on the television to show that we can make things happen as well as other worldwide sports. But when you look at some of the comments on the chat features, I know some people say, we're only having a laugh, but how many times can someone mention shorts? And how many times can people mention coloured shoes? Come on, it's not a kindergarten.
How many podcasts have we done, Richard?
We've done 20. This is our 28th. 27 have been on shorts.
Is there no way to control that, Jason? Is there no? To be honest with you, it does my head in. I swipe the comments off because you know, it's a laugh at first, but then there was the same people coming on all the time ban the drive, stop driving. It spoils and it was a bit of a laugh at first because you a few people saying, driving should be taken out of the game, blah. But then it's just relentless over and over. The same people thinking they're absolutely hilarious, coming up with these comments. And it's like, give it a rest, man. I mean, is there absolutely no control over what you can do?
Disable it.
It's hard to disable. So you can have like, when the BBC have like the hashtag Ask Corky, it's extra staff members that you need if you wish. So if the streaming company had loads of staff, let's just say, they have 2 people that just sit there, one for Facebook, one for YouTube. Their job is just to monitor chat and delete it. When there's only 2 of them operating all the cameras, speaking to me, speaking to the floor, it's just hard. And yeah, the annoying thing is 70% of viewers, let's just say 70%, are people that know the game of bowls, are there for the game of bowls. Yeah. The 30% of the people that have no idea, they're the most important people because they are the people you're trying to get into the game of bowls. So when you've got people joining in thinking, oh, what's this? And all they can see is, oh, look at those shorts, are rubbish. And, oh, what is he wearing? And look at his hair. And, oh, why is he striking? That's terrible. And some of the people making those comments were current junior internationals that represent their country. And you just think, you're doing nothing but being embarrassing for your own sport because you're not making anybody think, oh, this is an interesting sport. You think, well, there were all these kids moaning about the shorts, and I know bowl shorts, they're not very flattering, are they? Because, we're not gymnasts. I wish we all were, but, we're not gymnasts, are we? And it's very hard to make shorts, attractive in bowlers, but they don't help themselves. And I know they say, well, some of them got banned, I know, and they're like, well, we're only having a laugh. Yes. Well, most people know you're having a laugh, but the people we're trying to attract, the extra people that this sport needs, you're just doing nothing for the game. Because people could think, if you had 100,000 new people, 20 years of age, thinking, oh, I'm locked down at home, I've never seen this sport before, what's it all about? And all they see is all that ridiculous, childish comments. They're going to think, well, what a pathetic sport this is. And they don't realise the damage they are having done. The WBT, I don't care what anybody says, have put an awful lot of work into making that championship happen, along with the sponsors, along with Potters. Potters Resort looks amazing this year, and it's such a shame there was nobody there to see it. The transformation is unbelievable, and I just hope that people see it. But, that's just how it is at the moment. But, when you put yourself on a world stage in anything in life, you're up for criticism.
I think one of the bugbears about the YouTube chat thing is, I tuned in once and it added on, and I think we must have had the full darts professional circuit on because they're all going under bloody different names. Just have the balls and put your name on, you know what I mean?
That takes a whole stronger character, doesn't it? Because when you're all suffering, all these people that are slagging everybody else off because the way they look or they're maybe carrying a little bit of extra weight this year because of lockdown, people that are doing that slagging off are because if they actually looked in the mirror themselves, they wouldn't really like, would they? They wouldn't. It's so easy to criticize everybody else. Have a look in the mirror and actually criticize yourself for a change. And that's the difference with me. I go in there, I do the very best I can. And if my best isn't good enough for people, then that's just how it is.
Thanks so much for coming on, being an absolute star, and wish you all the best for the future.
Cheers, guys. Thanks so much. Keep up the really, really good work. It's I know it must be really hard for you at the moment, trying to find really interesting things. But, if you need something a bit more interesting, I'm always available for you.
To be honest with you, Jason, it's the only reason you're on, because we've been struggling to find things.
Oh, I love you loads. Yeah.
Cheers, mate. You take care.
Cheers, mate.
Bye. Put your crap music on now.
How very dare he? Right, show number 28 over. Our anniversary is orchids.
It's nice
I think that says it all. Luckily, as show number 29 will be furniture, so me and Davey's off to IKEA to get a flat pack furniture. Anyway, before we go, mate, the only Bowls magazine left in the sport is Bowls International. Now, Sean, who's been a guest on here, has expressed our disappointment at the negativity around the sport, and basically it was, if you don't like the way an event is run, the politics, organisation or commentators, then don't watch it. And it's every bowler's duty to be positive about the sport, which, yeah, I'll take the last bit. But if you don't, if you think everything's sweet and rosy in the garden, well, when you don't voice opinion,
nothing changes.
No, nothing changes. Is that your diplomatic answer? Nothing changes.
Well, it is. I mean, like I said, it is, isn't it? It's like everything. It's like we can all say we do the best, but there's always somebody out there who says, "Well, I'm sorry, but I don't think it is the best." I've always said the best form of feedback is the negative feedback, because that's the bit you learn from. We can all sit there and take all the plaudits and take the praise, etc., etc. But the thing that drives any business or organisation is how they react to the things that they're doing wrong. So, yeah, without going too much into it, because, political, and certainly wouldn't want to say anything against Sean. And one thing I will agree with him, we've touched on it with Jason, is the individual attacks. Do not condone that in any shape or form, having them go at somebody individually. Don't like what they're doing, but if you've got the balls to say it over a computer, then say it to somebody's face, rather than making it an open forum. So I'm certainly, fully behind on that point of view. But as we've just touched on there, without, again, going too much into it, you've got to have opinion to change.
It's creative criticism, as Jason would say.
It is, and maybe there needs to be a little bit of thought as to how those opinions or questions can be either brought up in a different forum, so that there is an opportunity for people to provide those questions and opinions. But the most important thing is, regardless of whether it's I'm not prepared to answer that question, give people an answer.
Yeah.
Because when you didn't give people an answer, the heckles go up on the back of your neck, and that old saying of, if you have great experience, you'll tell one person. If you have a bad experience, you'll tell 10. And that is basic human nature, unfortunately. So Sean writes what she feels, exactly the same as we say what we feel as far as opinions concerned. You agree with it, great. If you don't, let her know. There's an opportunity there. There is probably an email address for Bowls International. Sure, if Sean was to get comments from people, Sean would more than happily respond to them. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about, mate. Exactly. Yeah. Well, another one over with. So we'll be, I'll meet you at IKEA to get that furniture for show 29.
Aye, yeah, we'll get a nice mahogany
bedside cabinet.
Yeah, that'll do.
Right, well, folks, we hope you enjoy the show, and look after yourselves, and we'll catch you soon.
Certainly will. Take care, everybody. Thank you for listening, and hope you've enjoyed the show.
This has been a Dodgy production.